All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webinar, The Power of Positive Work Environments Using CliftonStrengths to Build Dynamic Teams and a Thriving Campus Community. So my name is Lori Sabata, and I will be serving as your technical producer for the broadcast today. So as my first sort of official duty, what I'd like to do is do a quick tech check, and I know that some folks are still kind of in the process of logging in. I see you logging in there, so hello. And what I'd like to do is just kind of direct your attention. If you haven't been on a Zoom webinar before, you should see a strip or a ribbon that has sort of like a hand on it. If you wouldn't mind clicking that hand, that lets me know that you can hear my voice, and you should be seeing the title screen that has the title of the webinar on it and the presenters' names and the logos, and I see raised hands. So that is an excellent sign that things are all well on your end. So thank you so much for doing that. I'm just going to run through some quick sort of housekeeping type items before we get started today. It looks like we have a lot of really good content, so I don't want to take up any of that time with my business. So with the tech check out of the way, I wanted to mention that, of course, we're going to have some presentation time by our presenters today, which I'll turn it over to in a moment. I wanted to talk a little bit about questions and answers. We will have some time for questions and discussion at the end of the presentation today. So how we're going to do that is we have the audience on a listen-only mode today, since we have a pretty large group. So how we'll do questions is, again, if you look at that strip or ribbon, somewhere near where you saw that hand, there should be a box that says Q&A or chat. We're actually going to be using that a couple times during the presentation. I think our presenters are going to ask us to provide some input. So you'll be using that, and then you'll be using the chat for that, and then for questions and answers, it looks like we're going to be using that box then for questions. So if you have a question that you have of the presenters, please feel free to type that in the box at any time, and we'll go ahead and address those as we get to the end of the presentation. So at any time also, if you have any technical issues, like it looks like the slides aren't advancing or suddenly you can't hear, please go ahead and use the chat function. You can direct message me through that, and I'll attempt to resolve any issues that you might be having. I did want to mention real quick that we're going to be recording the webinar today, so we'll have that up available as a YouTube link that we'll be able to send out to folks later. So if you have any colleagues who might have missed the presentation today, that'll be a nice, easy way to send that along to them. So I said I was going to be quick, and I was, so I would like to turn it over to our presenters for today, and they can go ahead and get started. Welcome.
All right. Well, hello, and thank you all for being here, and just huge thanks to Lori and Aaron and Holly, the folks behind the scenes at both NERSA and ACUO-I. Say that right? I'm from the NERSA side, so I don't always get the ACUO-I piece done, but I am Caroline Doss. I'm the Associate Director for Healthy Lifestyle Programs here at Georgia Tech. Just a little quick bio about me. I've been a Gallup strengths coach and facilitator for 2 years now. I've been in my role as the Associate Director for 4 years here at Tech, and I love to tell people that I lead with my positivity, my woo, my communication, my includer, and my activator, which is a fancy way to say that I have a lot of energy. I love telling stories. I like winning people over to my side. I want to make sure everybody hears the story that I'm going to tell, and I'm going to get us started with a lot of action to kick that story off. So thank you all for being here today. We're excited to share what we've been doing on our campus and hopefully give you some tools and tips and takeaways to do on your campus as well. So with that, I'll kick it over to Khalifa.
Hi, I'm Khalifa Johnson. I am the Professional Development and Recruitment Coordinator here at Georgia Tech. I have been working for housing for 15 years, and my strengths are maximizer, activator, strategic, relator, and woo. So that just means that I can convince anyone to do pretty much anything with a smile on my face.
Awesome. Hello, everyone. I'm Cherie Gibson. I'm serving as the Interim Director of Residence Life. I've been at Georgia Tech for a little over 14 years, and I've been in the role of Interim Director for a little over a year. So, achiever, learner, intellection, belief, input. Basically what that means is that I like to get things done, and I like to think about things a whole lot before I execute. So, with that being said, let's get started. So, let's talk about CliftonStrengths. What is it? I'm going to give you a little bit of a crash course here. So CliftonStrengths Finder was created by Donald Clifton, and he is said to be the grandfather of positive psychology. His idea was that we all have talents we're born with, and with the right investment, we can turn those talents into strengths that set us up for success. In the 90s, Gallup teamed up with Donald Clifton to administer an objective measure of personal talent in an online assessment, so the Strengths tool. This assessment measures a natural, reoccurring pattern of thought, feeling, and behavior that can be productively applied, and that's also known as talent. And it helps individuals realize ways to consistently produce a positive outcome through near-perfect performance on a specific task. So, in essence, strength. So housing, just for some additional context, Housing and Residence Life has been using this assessment since July of 2018. And for us, it was important to have a tool that would help us have a common language for all of our professional staff and use it as a way of development for all of our wonderful members. So I'm going to turn it back over to Caroline to add some additional info.
Yeah, and I just want to explain to this group why the Campus Recreation chose this assessment. There are others out there, and all of them really, I like to say, kind of give you a different window in which to look into your house. But we chose Strengths because Strengths has given us one of the only tools that has given us an actual language to use when we're talking about what we're good at and we're talking about what we're bringing to the team. And so really for the past 3.5 years, the CRC has been on this journey, and we're going to get into all that in just a few minutes. But we've been on this journey to identify what we do best, what we bring to the table, and how to actually tell people about that. And CliftonStrengths really gives us a lot of tools to use and a language, like I said, to bridge us all together. And what started as retreats has really permeated our entire culture here at the CRC. You're going to hear me say CRC, that's what we call our Campus Recreation Complex. So I'll use CRC and Campus Rec interchangeably, but that's why we chose this assessment. It's got some tools that talk about productively aiming our strengths, not just about who we are. Because anybody can tell you that I'm a blue from True Colors, right? Or I'm Belle from What Fairy Tale Princess Are You? But how do I use that? And Strengths has given us some tools to say, okay, I am these things. This is how I work, how I think, how I act, how I naturally behave. Here's how I can actually put those into action. And that's what we've really found rewarding with CliftonStrengths.
All right, before we get started really good, I want to see where you guys are out there. If you could answer the question in the chat box, how many of you are currently using CliftonStrengths? Just to add a yes, no, or we're soon. Soon, I'm seeing a lot of yeses, a couple no's. It's looking maybe half and half, but I kind of feel like what's our sort of? What sort of?
Have in the past, have used in the past.
Soon, not as a department, tried it last summer. So I'm seeing some sort ofs, and you've been through it, but not consistently. Thank you for that. It sounds to me like maybe we need to have a conversation about how to strengthen our commitment to strength and showing you the things that we've done and how we've been able to use it. Hopefully we can help you make a case for it, or to be able to talk to, the powers that be about how to make sure that they understand that this is something important and what the benefits of using strength really are and can be. Now, I have one more question. For those of you who are using strength, have you seen a difference in your team's culture? Yes, no, or maybe you can put somewhat. If you have seen some difference, working on it, somewhat, I see a lot of somewhat, need to use it more. Oh, I see a yes, definitely, with an exclamation point. 6 months in, somewhat yes. Oh, I see a no. So, and again, we want to make sure that we're letting you know what we've been doing so that we can talk to you about our successes and some other things that we want to do in the future so that we can continue to see a difference and continue to be able to show why it's such a great thing for us to be able to do.
Okay, thanks, Kalita.
Thanks.
So for those of y'all who may join this webinar and thinking, I really don't even know what strengths are, I'm going to hopefully not bore the people that do know what they are and are using them and thinking about them. I want to just tell a quick story. As you saw, communication is my number one, so I like to tell stories. Why strengths? And I think hopefully this story will kind of drive this point home for those of you who are not familiar with strengths, and maybe give those that are another reason why to revisit it or see how you can further that conversation. So you don't have to put in the chat box so that you don't tell on yourself, but how many of you have worked on teams with people like this? Maybe you thought these about your teammates. Maybe you're on teams with these people on it right now. And so I think it's human nature for, yes, I see a resounding yes. I think it's human nature for us to think negatively about people when we don't understand them. Yelp, you go to Yelp, they're usually the negative reviews are the ones that you see first, right? What's wrong with people? And one thing that we love about CliftonStrengths is we're trying to change that conversation to what's right. And by doing that, we enter in a different sort of language into this tool and into this conversation so that we can begin to understand why people tick the way they are, right? And so one of the ways, let me tell you a story about one of the ways we saw this in action here. Before we did strengths, I was new to our team. I came from Georgia State. I joined this team as associate director, and there were people on my immediate team that I just didn't understand. And now I have permission to share this story because I think it really helps us paint this picture. And there was one person in particular on my team that always said, no, we can't do that. No, this is why. We're not gonna do it that way. No. And over time, I started to think, wow, maybe this person is kind of a jerk. And so it was hard not to be negative when all I heard was the word no for whatever idea that we tried to throw out there. Well, we took strengths, and we found out that among some other strengths, and I'm not calling this one strength out if you have it, so please don't hear that as the story, but one of this person's strengths was high consistency. And the reason why he kept saying no to all that we were doing was because in his brain, he was able to see we were not consistently applying some of the things that we wanted to do in our department evenly across the board. We weren't being consistent. We weren't thinking about all sides of the equation. And he was able to really pick that up. And it wasn't really until we took strengths that he was able to say, no, and here's why. My consistency is not allowing us to move forward until we get it right for everybody. And it really started to open up a conversation for us to have to think, oh, he's not being a jerk. He really is trying to make our department better. He just sees it how we can make it better for everybody and not this one unit that we're trying to change. And ultimately, when we started leaning into his no's and understanding better what they meant, and he had some tools to tell us, here's why I'm saying no, instead of I'm just saying no because it doesn't make sense to me, we were able to start really harnessing that power to have some more consistent policies throughout our entire department. We have 24 staff in our department, and so getting everybody on the same page is not always easy. And strengths has really been a great equalizer for us. So I show you this team to show you that we were able to move past some of these negative connotations and this negative lens because we were able to speak through strengths. And now I'm here to tell you that tech really, not just tech, but the CRC, and I know housing is not quite there yet. Sometimes we just walk around and say, my learner really needs this. I get picked on a lot because I'm one of the only few on our team with Includer. And usually I'm in a meeting, I'm like, is everybody here that needs to be here? And they'll say, okay, your Includer is kind of going haywire. But not everybody does that, right? Not every team is going to speak in strengths. You may actually use some of these yellow words instead of the actual strengths language. But by using the strengths language, we were able to get through the negative lens and to that more positive mindset about our team to come together, and it's really changed a lot of our culture. And I know Kalitha had another example that she wanted to share about talking through strengths.
So with us, the way that we've been able to use strength, the way that I've been able to use strength on my committees, I chair a committee that, you know, there's a lot of different personalities and there are different people with different agendas, so on and so forth. So I've been able to use the strengths that people are bringing to the table to try and be a little bit more cohesive and to help folks understand and be more comfortable with the way that they're getting work done. So for us, as we divide tasks on our committee, giving people certain like titles and allowing them to think of themselves as my talent ambassador and so on and so forth, it allows people to focus on what they're good at and feel empowered. They're leaning into their strengths, and it gives them energy to see the job through to the end. They also are learning to partner with people who complement their strengths so that they can work more efficiently and more effectively. So my woo/communicator is the one that I've charged with corresponding with her peers. She uses that influencing strength to help them understand what we're doing and the help that we need from them to help us get our work done. I have another committee member that's positivity and relator. I partnered her with individualization and arranger, and they're the ones that are corresponding with candidates that we bring to campus so that we make sure that those candidates have a positive experience and that they feel like they're taken care of because those particular committee members are especially talented in making people feel really taken care of. So that's the way that we've been able to use that in housing and residence life. The next phase that we want to talk to you about is our path that we've been able to take. And I wanted to, before I get started, to really reiterate to you, we show you this graphic not to tell you that we've made it to that summit. Like, we're still working to get to the top of that summit. But we show you this image to outline the steps that we took in this summit. We realize that there are other peaks out there and that there's going to be a path that you take that may not look like ours, but we just wanted to give you a few things that we've been able to put into place and to use to strengthen where we are and what we're doing and what we're trying to accomplish. So one of the first things that we did, you all met Dr. Gibson earlier. Our interim director was trained as a CliftonStrengths Finder coach. Georgia Tech adopted this program that they called Project One, where all incoming freshmen would take CliftonStrengths starting fall of 2018. This was our way of aligning those values of the institution with residence life. We wanted to be able to give time, space, and assistance if necessary. So we started with getting our professionals up to speed. During the summers, we have what we call our Summer Institute. So basically, we incorporated StrengthsFinder into our professional development. We focused on understanding what strengths are, why they're important, and how all professionals could use them at work. The workshop covered the majority of the 34 strengths, but it really allowed professionals to explore and process as they wished and as they needed to. In January of 2019, we incorporated strengths into our professional development as well as at our winter retreat. The workshop incorporated strengths worksheets and allowed professionals to think about and discuss how they use strengths daily at work. At this time, we ensured that all our professional staff in residence life received their updated top 5 strengths. In June of 2019, we did a strengths-based workshop based on peer coaching. We felt really good about how our professionals were able to talk to each other and ask questions about their own strengths and talk to each other about how they were, the one that they were having the most trouble understanding. They were divided into pairs, and each person talked through the confusion or the opposition of that particular strength. They listened to each other and coached each other, asking questions and offering insights. We did the same thing again in June of 2019, because we thought that they did a really good job in May. This time they were paired based on the strength that they had in common. They were asked to discuss how that particular strength showed up differently based on the other 4 strengths. Professionals were able to gain powerful insight as to how they use this strength and the particular nuances of how the other 4 strengths work together. In October, we've been able to do some qualitative analysis. We have some anecdotal examples of how professional staff use their strengths daily with their teams and whether or not they feel like it's a positive program. Professionals largely see strengths as a positive way to move through their daily work, and they seem to feel really good about their contributions in the workplace. Some of our professionals have been using strengths for years, and they're very excited about the possibility of expanding the department's commitment. And those are some of the people that we want to lean on a little bit, because that would help with, the consistency and to help us keep marching on and continuing to use this tool. A few mentioned how the work that we have been doing helped them gain personal insight, but would like a little bit more guidance on how they can use it with their teams. So they're just letting us know, I see it for myself, but I don't know if I'm comfortable using it to supervise just yet. So those are some of the things that we're looking for to work forward to in the future.
Awesome, thanks. So the way we kind of broke up this presentation was to tell you a little bit about what Campus Rec is doing, a little bit about what Housing and Res Life is doing, and then we'll weave it all together towards the end here. But, we had a different path. A lot of the elements were the same, which is why we show you this graphic. And again, we've been at this for about 3.5 years now, almost 4. Housing has been at it for about 1.5 years, right? And so we're going to have different paths. You're going to hear different things. But it really did start with our current culture and figuring out, where are we? What do we want to do? And that was that moment that I got here and said, I don't know people on this team. I don't understand the way that they talk or think or work. I need something to get us all in a baseline. And fortunately, our senior director, Michael, was super on board with that. And he said, there's one catch. I'm happy for you to take strengths. I'm happy to have a workshop and unpack the results. What I will not be happy with is if you just leave it there and walk away. So what are you going to do beyond the assessment, beyond the results, to make this work? And so given that challenge, I said, challenge accepted. Let's go. Let's take this. We have been able to systematically weave strengths into a lot of what we do. So we've done this through workshops, through the language, through our professional development opportunities. We have a coaching model that we've started, and we've got some strategic expansion. So I'll tell you a little bit about ours so you can hear the difference between the two paths, knowing that, again, we're not at the peak of our summit either. We're at the top of a summit, just understanding that we can see more summits in the distance that we want to get there. So what has CRC been doing? Well, we do consider ourselves a strengths-based team. One of the things that we've done is really revamped how we have our meetings and how we stack our retreats. Our team meetings, and yes, this is a picture of one of our team meetings. We don't always have cupcakes, but when we do, it is excellent. But we do have name tags at our team meetings, every team meeting, period. Yes, we all know each other's names. I think our newest staff member has just hit her first year here. But we have our name tags with our 5 front and center every staff meeting. And I don't know if you can see on the photo, but we also start our team meetings with a strengths activity, period. We might do something super simple, and I'm going to give you some activities that you could do with your teams at the end of this presentation. We might do just a question. Hey, where have you seen your strengths showing up this week? We might do something that takes 20 to 30 minutes of an actual team-building exercise of we interviewed each other about our top 5 and bottom 5 strengths because we've unlocked our 34. And we had a homework assignment that we brought back to team meeting to talk about our top 5 and our bottom 5. And everybody participated. We had 100%, which was really cool. But we've reevaluated how our team meetings are conducted. We sit in strength pods. We no longer sit in the same seat for years and years and years. We make people move around the room about every quarter. And again, that's why the name tags are important. So we know who we're sitting with. We know the strengths when we have our discussions and what we're talking about with our different business things. and we put that on our agenda as well, right? We have strength-based retreats. We don't just have retreats that are only strength-based, but sometimes we do. But we do try to weave strengths into every retreat, or we call them now staff summits, because we're not really allowed to call them retreats anymore, I don't think. But our staff summits all have some sort of element of strengths-based learning or growth embedded in them. And we try to target all dimensions of well-being. That's physical, we get up and moving around the room, around campus. We went on a scavenger hunt one year, and we around campus to collect clues and photos, and we broke out in strength-based teams. And then we had a discussion and a debrief on how those strengths worked well together on that scavenger hunt, right? Social well-being is a part of that, physical, mental, all of that, the professional well-being angle. We try to target all those different dimensions while we're building this retreat, all based around our strengths. And then we have activities, and we have them discussion-based. We debrief so that we understand what it is we're bringing to the table. This picture was actually taken at one of our retreats, and if you know strengths, you know that some of them are all of the strengths of 34 are broken up into 4 different buckets. There's execution, influencing, strategic thinking, and relationship building buckets that all 34 fall into. And so we had everybody circle up at the end of one of our days, and we all had to pick a strength that we were going to bring to this team. And depending on which bucket it fell in, it was a color string that we chose. And you can see here our team brought a gamut of things, right? And this is what they represented for our team to tie onto the circle, which we later framed around the CRC and then framed and it hangs in our conference room as a reminder of the strengths that we're bringing to our team. And so the other thing that we have done is we have woven strengths-based language into our performance evaluation. No, if you're in HR, no, we have not changed the actual evaluation. We do not have that power as much as we'd love to. But we have taken very big liberties in the comment section to, when we're meeting one-on-one with our direct reports or with our supervisor, we now have the comments based around our strengths. And we literally put the language in there. Something for me is activator, and I'll call myself out. When I had my review with my direct supervisor, Michael, my boss, we talked about activator, and we said, hey, how has activator helped you accomplish your goals this year? And I was like, well, it helped me get started in a lot of activities and make sure that we had the momentum to keep us going. It was great. And then we said, okay, well, how has your activator maybe hindered what you've done, or maybe some of the goals you didn't hit? And I said, well, because my activator is so amazing and awesome and I like to get things started, I have like 30 tabs open and I only closed 5 of them. And so I've got some goals this year to close the tab, right, to get that activator, maybe pair with somebody that's good at getting things done, an achiever. Pairing my activator with somebody else on my team, then I can say, okay, if we're going to start this project, let's figure out a way to close it. Let's make sure we hit that goal and not just have 30 million goals out there, right? So we were able to actually put that language in a performance evaluation, and I can tell you that the performance evaluation time this past March was one of the easiest and simplest it's ever been for most people, because we actually have some language to which we could talk about what are you doing right, what's going well, how are you hitting the goals, why are you doing it the way you're doing it. And so it's been a real great way to see that. So we did collect some data. We're Georgia Tech. We want to make sure we've got our numbers behind us. And this was a survey that I sent out to our pro staff in March, right actually after right after their performance evaluation. And the data, these were the questions. How beneficial has the strengths activities been for you? And overwhelmingly, everybody had great things, to report, saying, yeah, we agree that it's been beneficial. Because of strengths, I feel that I understand or work better with my coworkers. Everybody except that one outlier felt pretty good about it, right? They felt that they understood who their coworkers were. We were able to unlock a little bit of mystery around some folks as to why do you do things that way? Why do you say things that way? What are you doing? I believe that the strengths assessment-related activities have had a positive effect on our team environment. So I love this slide because nobody disagreed. A couple people were like, maybe, but nobody disagreed that the strengths did not have a positive effect. And so the more we get into this journey and up our path, I think that we'll even shift these numbers even higher, which is just been beneficial all around for us. And then finally, I know this is a little hard to explain, but I can name at least one strength for how many are our professional staff members. So over 65% of us can name at least one strength for half of our staff or more, right? The two of us that can name all the strengths are the two coaches, myself and Kelly, who's the other strengths coach that we have on our staff, and we're looking actually to add a third so that we can help with that. So a lot of same things that we're doing is housing. We're just a little further on our path in what we're doing. And so just some data to show you that it has been working and it's been changing what we're doing. So we want to transition to a little bit of okay, that's great. You've got my why, you've got my what, you've got my so what. So now let's talk about now what. I've come here to learn something. Give me something to learn. Right? So we have some activity suggestions for all your team sizes and how you maybe, if for those of you that said yes, we're using strengths, we're doing it, we just haven't really revisited it in a long time, maybe one of these will spark your attention on what you can do. So I'm going to run down this list. I do want to let you know we have this in a handout form with directions and suggested timing so that you don't have to take, quick notes because it's going to be very, very quick about what we're doing. But we will send the PDF of these activity suggestions to everybody. And I want you to make note of the asterisk. You can do this with or without strengths language. Absolutely. Strengths language just adds another layer and gives you more tools in which to talk to people with. So the first one is an openings activity. And I'm not actually going to run through this because we're going to do this together after this slide. So just know that we have a one, and it's basically asking questions. Oh, yep, and I see people putting their emails in there. I think Lori maybe hop in here, but I think we have a way to capture everybody's email to send them out the PDF.
We should have the attendees email. We do have the attendees email, so we can do it that way.
Perfect. Okay. We love your emails. You can totally pop them there, but we will send it out to you, so don't worry about it. Don't do it that way. Perfect. I see that. Awesome. All right. So openings, when we do that together, I'm going to skip that one, okay, because we want to make this a little interactive. Personal pledge activity. We did this as a team for our pro staff, and actually all of our students have gone through CliftonStrengths. When you get onboarded to work here at the CRC as a student, we onboard them in CliftonStrengths. And so a lot of our team has done this, and we basically created a pledge of what we're going to do to serve this team, right? And so you can read my pledge there. I won't bore you with it, but everybody has one of these on file, which is kind of cool. And we revisit them every now and then to say, hey, remember this pledge? Are we still upholding this? Are we still doing this? Are we still adding to our culture? The best of us, probably one of the best team activities that we've ever done. We use this a lot in our retreats. We use this for different team sizes when we need to get to know our team. It asks 4 simple questions. You get our statements. You get the best of me when? You get the worst of me when? You can count on me too, and this is what I need from you. And again, you don't have to use strengths language for this, but it gives them a little bit more to pull from to be able to answer these questions and articulate what it is that you're getting from me to add to this team. How full is your bucket? This is what I really want to talk about because these are the fun ones. There's a book by Tom Wraith, who is, I think it's Don's son-in-law, grandson, you're right. It's his grandson. And together with Don, he authored this book that talks about by filling others' buckets, your own bucket gets full. And so we've taken that to heart. And you can see a couple photos here. We did what's called a March Madness Challenge, and we asked folks to give teammates compliments. And the person who gave the most compliments, not received the most compliments, not a popularity contest, but who gave the most compliments would win lunch from me and a couple other folks that threw in to give lunch out, right? And so we wanted this to be based on that concept of by filling other people's buckets, and we have the buckets there where you can see everybody had a compliment. I mean, everybody had stuff in their bucket. Everybody did. The person that won had 89 compliments that he gave out over the course of March, which was really cool. And we kind of did a bracket challenge and at the very end with the March Madness. But so we did that. The other one that we did was Leave Me Some Love. We commandeered a bulletin board in our break room, and we made everybody little love hearts for Valentine's. And again, same concept, just leave a little note of appreciation for your folks. And then we had a group of folks in our office that went and delivered all the notes to everybody on Valentine's Day. And everybody got a note, y'all. There wasn't anybody that was left out, because, you know, that would have hurt my includer heart. But everybody got some love, and everybody felt really special. And it was just a way to reinforce that we're all here for each other and we're in it together. So we want to have some practice with one of the others, and like I said, the openings. So Kalitha's going to walk us through what this looks like when we put it into action. Oh, am I doing that? Oh, my bad. I'm going to do that, and Kalitha's going to take some. So maybe you have a piece of scratch paper. Maybe you feel bold enough to type it in the chat. I'm going to leave that completely up to you. But I'm going to give you a couple minutes to think here, because we got some time. All right? So picture that you're in a team meeting, and whether or not you've gone through strengths, you're about to begin, you've got the attention of the room, and instead of launching into your to-dos and your these are's and here's what's coming up and all those things, you start with this. Are you ready? You got your paper ready? Before we begin our meeting, I want to ask everybody, what's the most important challenge at work that you currently face? And I want you to do that. So I'm going to be quiet here for a second and let you think. Jot it down. You can put it in the chat, feel free, or maybe just to your piece of paper on your desk. Yep. Cool. Recruitment of staff, finding a meeting space, good. Employee motivation. And if you want to type in the response, you may want to change your settings to 2 to all panelists and attendees, so that folks can see what you're talking about. Yep. Because I think if you send it to only the panelists, there we go, low staff morale. Everybody else can see what we're seeing here. Time management, work-class balance, yep. Finding a meeting space, keeping up on emails. All right, so maybe you've done this at your desk, or you've added into there. Thanks. Some folks have, communication, balancing competing priorities. Yes, huge, right? Not enough pro staff, huge. Being challenged and staying fully engaged. Oh, man, strengths is your language, Kathy. Making sure things get done when we have vacancies. Yes, those are big. All right, so staffing. So we've got some challenges. Now I want to move you into a second question. All right? Move into a second question. And I'm going to get off the screen so I can do that. How will your strengths help you overcome this challenge? What are you going to do? What are you going to focus on today or this week or this month to overcome this challenge? And again, maybe you have the strengths language in which to talk about it and say, I'm going to use my achiever to, or maybe you just put it into your own language, and what does that look like? Be consistent. Move away from judgment to better understanding. Positivity. Good. Erin, how are you going to use that positivity to do that? Can you give us some language around that? And you don't have to put it in the chat, but again, how are you going to use that? What actions can you take? Communicate. Vicki, yes, hey Vicki, communicate the value of work accomplished at our institution in a more global network. Awesome. I love that. Use my restorative strength to help others. Yeah, because you're going to solve problems, right, Michelle? I'm using my learner side to learn some new tasks and help out others in areas other than my own. Alyssa, that's exciting, right? Your learner's like, yes, I have more things to learn. This is great. I can actually use that as a superpower to help others. Linda, be more supportive to others in need. And Kevin, persistence and networking. sounds like woo to me, Kevin, the networking side. So, and Lisa, using adaptability to assist staff with getting work done when we are down staff members. Yes, you're in the moment. You got to figure out which fire to put out. So how are you going to get that work done? And you've got adaptability, so that's going to energize you, not drain you, right? And then Kathy, continue to seek out educational opportunities like this webinar. Perfect. We love that. So you see, just 2 simple questions can unlock a staff meeting and some conversation before you even get started, right? And maybe this is something that you just start to do in your meetings, maybe even in your one-on-one. And it doesn't have to be these questions. You can pick some powerful questions. You know, one question we love to throw out to our team is, where have you seen the strength of someone else in action this week? And then they get to sit there and think about, where have I seen Cherie's belief come out? I want to write that down, and I'm going to share it with her because I want to reinforce how awesome she is and what that superpower does for her. And so you can see it begins to unlock power and potential in your team and unlock communication that sometimes we're stuck with, right? It starts opening these doors that may have been closed or partially shut with some real language and teeth to it. So thank you so much for all your responses and going through that exercise with us. So we've got a couple more things, and then we'll get to some questions and answers. We got plenty of time.
So the last thing that we want you to do is just to think about how will you reach your summit. What is one very practical thing that you can really dig into in the next week to reach your summit? And remember, those summits can be an assessment or a workshop. You may want to incorporate it into your professional development. There are things you can do to start weaving in that language. You can just make a pact to coach each other, whether that's like a peer, your work husband, work spouse. Just think about something that you all can commit and are confident in getting done in the next week. Take a couple of minutes to think about that and put it in the chat box. Again, it can be totally personal. Put it on a piece of paper and get ready to march it down to your supervisor, or grab your crew and say, hey, y'all, let's start working on this so that we can make a case for taking it to the supervisor. Give you guys a little more time. Do we have any commitments that we want to share? All right. Thank you all so much for participating, for listening, for just being with us. You guys have hung out for 60 minutes, and we love you for it.
Oh, and we thank you. We have one from Tara. Oh, they're starting to come in. Reach out to our strengths facilitator to set up a workshop for our department. Thanks, Tara. Yes, absolutely. Do that. Joel, share this webinar with the boss and others up the chain of command. Yes, getting higher levels of command in there or up the chain has really helped us be able to do this work for sure. So all direct report staff now have top 34 one-on-one conversations regarding 6 through 10. Yes, Vicki, the 6 through 10, I agree. We're moving into that space as well, and it's just so crucial to understanding. Plan for it and follow through. Yes, Kevin, absolutely. So thank you. So we wanted to leave you with this call to action and say, looking at everything that we've talked about, and I know it went by a little fast. Webinars always seem to do that. But what is something that you can commit to and say, I'm going to do this? And maybe your commitment needs a person attached to that. So if you did write down a commitment on your piece of paper, beside it, write down somebody's name that you're going to tell that commitment to. Maybe it's your coworker, or like Tara said, maybe it's her strengths facilitator she's going to reach out to take that next step. What's going to get you to that next top of your mountain? And I'd be remiss here if I didn't point out, our expedition to Mount Kilimanjaro, and literally sitting on top of the world, right, to reach our summit on one of our expeditions. But we know that this is not the only one, right? This is not our summit. This is not the stop. It doesn't just stop here. We'll continue to grow and continue to do and make that work. So thank you again. So with that, we wanted to leave plenty of time for questions so that the three of us could answer anything you might have, whether it be logistics or philosophy or whatever you need. What questions do you have?
I think we just give folks a couple. Oh, I see some coming in.
So is CliftonStrengths available to every student or employee? And I think you mean for Georgia Tech. Is that correct, Kevin? So I'm going to assume that. No, it's not. We have been working very hard, and it's not something that we covered in this particular webinar, but there's been a group of us on campus that have been trying to get strengths through our first year program. And so for the past 2 years, our first year program has paid for strength codes for all of our incoming students. So our first years and our second years now have all had access to the Strengths Finder, or it's not called Strengths Finder anymore, but the Strengths Quest assessment. Thank you. And so not every student has taken it. It's not mandated that they take it before they get here, but they have the opportunity to take it. So we've reached about 5,000 students that way, and we're a campus of 25,000 or so. From the staff side, it's really been an effort department by department. So all of campus recreation and then all of our student employees, so there's 350 more there. We have worked with, I specifically work with HR. We've worked with our material science faculty and staff. We've worked with our Scheller College of Business faculty and staff. Gosh, I'm leaving people out. But we've worked with a lot of different departments, but it's been very, our health clinics and SAMPS health services. Some of our student life folks have done it, but it's very piecemeal. So we're still trying to figure out a way to get all of campus to do it. And yes, I do know that George Mason offers it. In fact, our new president, he's from George Mason. Yeah, that's right. So we're hoping that we catch on to Dr. Cabrera, who's come from George Mason, to come back here. So thank you for that question. How often should someone take the assessment to make sure their strengths are current? It's tricky.
That's a tricky question. That's a really good question.
Yeah.
So I think strengths would say,
take
it as often as you like.
Yes, you can't take as often as you like, but here's the thing. Yeah. Typically, your 1 through 10, which is where Gallup says most of your dominant talents and strengths lie, are not going to change all that much unless you go through a significant life change. So if you, like from high school to college, significant life change. College to real world, significant life change. Having a baby, getting married, having a death in the family that's someone really close. If you go through something that alters your being, your personality, then you may retake the test and get different results. However, you could take it every single year and waste your money that way, but your 1 through 10 is probably going to stay pretty much the same.
I think Gallup would also add that you will see either your 2 or 3 that will typically stay about the same in terms of its placement in the top 5, but there will be some movement in the top 10.
So Vicki asked, how did you get the buy-in to increase the number of strength coaches available? So this is, again, Vicki's been on a case-by-case basis. Our director saw the need for this, and I helped push. I used my woo, right, to win him over, and also our vice president and our executive director at the time that we needed this. We continue to say that we need this. We have an initiative on campus called the Effective Teams Dynamic Initiative. We actually have a website. You can search that. And there are some stakeholders from all across campus to make this more of a global thing for Georgia Tech students, faculty, and staff. And so the buy-in came by demonstrating to our senior leaders that here's some change. Taking that data was important because they needed to see some numbers, and writing out a plan of how we were going to use it beyond the assessment. That was a challenge. Great, here's your retreat, now what? And so we were able to construct the now what. We didn't realize what the path would look like, but every day we kind of delve a little deeper. And like I said, we have, everybody knows they're 34 on the CRC team. All of our retreats are done that way. And so we've got some named staples in that because of strengths we're able to do these things. Is professional charged to do the team strengths activities throughout the year? No. Or a student? No. So a lot of this is on a couple of our shoulders to just champion this cause. And I like to think of ourselves as strength champions. The coaching piece is something that I love, and I think Cherie would agree with me. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I mean, we love it. But where we even came up to come together with NERSA and Akuo, NERSA and Akuo is Cherie and I are going to start working together.
Yeah.
A lot closer. One of their future plans is to have an outside coach, me, come in and help them coach their staff in a way that we've done with our team. And just as I think it would be super beneficial for our team to be coached by somebody other than myself, because there are things you'll tell your coach that you may not tell your direct supervisor, right? And so right now, no, we don't have anybody charged to do these activities or to lead that. It's a collective effort, but a lot of it does fall on my shoulders and our other coach Kelly's shoulders for CRC, and a lot of it falls to Kalitha and Cherie in housing. And so we're taking that forward because we want to make that work.
And I think there are lots of resources out there that you can purchase or get from your library that would help to explain the strengths. One of the things that I think I've learned over the years is that once you start digging in, you'll see the complexity of the strengths, especially when they start intersecting with the other strengths. And so you're sort of always learning. I always learn something new about one of the 34 because it just shows up differently for each person. So I really would encourage you to think about ways that you can learn more about the strengths that won't necessarily mean that you have to go and get all of this training, though you can, and I absolutely encourage it. It is fantastic, yeah. But I think there's some other ways that you can start that process.
Exactly, and one of the focuses for this webinar was professional development, and we didn't really say that term a whole lot throughout the conversation because all of it is professional development. And the return on investment has been huge because we've invested in the codes, which were about $50 to unlock the 34, but it's less than that if you just want to do your top 5. And the other stuff has just been kind of sweat, blood, and tears of putting these things into practice and making it a daily habit and changing the culture every single day, not just hoping that a retreat will just have everybody automatically, get on the same bus. So it's that dogged determination to improve our culture every single day. And so, Tara, to kind of answer your question, our first step was the assessment. And we just said, y'all, we're going to do this. It's required. Everybody's doing it on our team because we could do that with our team. We can't do that for the university, but we can do that for the team. And then we said we're going to have a retreat. And the retreat wasn't just let's unpack the results, but let's unpack the results and let's make it about what we're doing. So we actually unpacked our results and had a conversation around our strategic plan. And how are our strengths of this team going to move and shape and plan out our strategic plan? And that was a couple of years ago. And this past year, we just recreated our mission, vision, and value statement. And we made sure that we had a strengths-based team come together, that we pulled that all together. And you can see strength language kind of woven throughout all that, intentionally, but unintentionally as well, right? Because it's just how we start to speak. And I will tell you something else. We don't have buy-in from everybody. think you saw from my results, we had that outlier. We had a couple people that are meh. But we're not going to capture everybody. And we just can't. We know that, and that's okay. But we're going to keep marching forward, and we're going to try to bring everybody along as best we can. But those that get it and then start using it, it's like learning any other language. Once you know the language, you want to know more about the language. And you want to know what other people are speaking, so other people are going to start learning the language with you so that everybody can have the same conversation. And that's what it's really been about. All right, I'd like to implement Strengths Quest with my student staff. You're not a coach or no one in your department, and that's okay. Yes, Gallup has a ton of resources. And again, it's another reason why we chose the assessment. And Cherie's nodding her head. Like, Gallup really sets you up for success in this area. I'm not going to say it's free. It's not. I mean, Gallup's a business. We're not here to peddle Gallup. We've been able to take a lot of the things that we've learned as Gallup coaches and turn that into activities and assessments and things on our own for free, because Gallup gives us the liberty and license to do that, right? But to get started, if you have zero help or zero coach, Gallup does have those resources. And so they're able to set you up. Like, they have a $100 book that has some of these activities laid out with the instructions right there for you. You can just literally follow the book. I mean, one of them is a crossword puzzle on strengths. You know, it's that simple. But what we've done with our student staff is we have our pro staff go through what our student staff are going to do, so our pro staff can in turn be the facilitators. So yeah, it's basically a train-the-trainer concept. So like the Best of Us. We had all of our pro staff do the Best of Us. It was a super powerful retreat moment where we talked about what we were bringing to our team. And then in turn, those pro staff turned around and led their teams through that with students. And so it was that train-the-trainer model, because I can't be at every staff meeting for our students. I just don't have that kind of time. But we try to embody that train-the-trainer mentality.
And if I could also add to that, I think one of the beauties of strengths is that you get to learn, like if you're not a coach, if you put in place some of those activities, you can help each other learn the strengths. And so I think there's some activities that they offer that help everyone get engaged with how they talk about the strengths, that allows everyone to kind of gain more confidence in their own expertise in certain strengths. And I really think that's what helped Res Life in our buy-in, because it wasn't just like the expert is getting up and just telling us. We get to sort of co-create how we're thinking through this, how we're working through this as a team, which I thought made a huge difference.
Yeah, and so one final question, because I know we're short on time, Lori, is how much staff turnover have you seen since making this a full-fledged effort? Has there been staff pushback or folks who didn't want to buy in to these efforts and found reasons to move on to other opportunities? You know, we turn over staff just like every other team at CRC and housing too, right? And people leave for different reasons, sometimes great, sometimes not great, whatever. But yes, we have had pushback of people who didn't buy in, but didn't give us an outright no. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to sit here with my arms crossed, not participate. They took the assessment, and it's all woven into their performance evaluations and things like that. So we haven't met a ton of resistance. The one thing that's been interesting, though, and I think I've got permission to share this story, is one of our staff left us. We were so sad to see him go because he finished his degree and was ready to take that next step in his career. And he goes to his interview, and he went just across the street to another department on campus, and he goes to sit down in his interview, and he has his strengths on his resume. And the interviewer looks at his resume, and he turns around, and he pulls off a piece of paper from his desk, and he says, "These are my top 5. Tell me about yours." And so he did, and he got the job. I mean, it was as simple as that. And you know, he was a great employee, so we knew he'd get the job anyway. But so we've been actually happy for those staff to use this as they go and seek other opportunities, to be able to talk confidently about themselves and understand what they're bringing to the table and what they can bring to that next job. We're happy for that professional development to get people out of the nest. It's great. It's what it's for. So hopefully we've answered all your questions. If you ever have more, of course, email us, drop us a line, or give us a call. We'd love to chat more. The three of us in this room will talk strength all day, if we were allowed to. But we also want to say thank you to Nursa and Aaron and Akuo and Lori and Holly for having us here.
Yep. Thank you all so much, and thanks for our listening audience for joining us today and hanging in there with us through the hours. Really great information. And thanks for all the great questions too. That was really fun, and the interactivity too. So we really appreciate you jumping in there. So thank you to everyone. Thank you to the presenters for sharing your time and talent with us this afternoon. And just as I had mentioned before, we are recording this, so we'll have that recording available up on YouTube for anyone that may have missed it. And I hope everyone has a great afternoon, and thank you very much. Have a good day.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.